Hello, and welcome back to another in the series, A Glass with Our Growers. I am thrilled to have on my small sofa Pablo de Simón from Valserrano with me.
Hello, Lettie. Nice to be here with you in this beautiful room and palace. Speaking about wines from my family, wines from Rioja, wines from my private cellar.
Perfect. I won't turn the camera around because it's not quite as glamorous as you might think it is. So we'll keep it facing this way. But I'm thrilled to have you here. Pablo, could I start you off? Would you be kind enough to explain to everyone a little bit about the history of your winery and how you're involved in the business?
Well, my winery, my family has been making wines for 140 years. I am the fifth generation, and our production is coming from our property of 70 hectares that we have in Rioja Alavesa, in the village of Villabuena, in the family, and that we work by hand and we do everything in the family since more than 140 years ago. So
Amazing.
all our wines come from there, and and we like to show how we do the wines following the classic methods of Rioja. But I think that we can say one thing that I like to say, that in Rioja, very good brands are making wines with grapes from all over the region. Our grapes come from our village only, and the village is in the northern side of Rioja,
Okay.
which is one of the good areas.
What's the area called for people?
Rioja Alavesa.
Yeah.
Rioja Alavesa. So near the mountain that is separating Rioja from the Basque Country.
Okay.
Even although technically we are also located in the Basque Country, that is why it is called Rioja Alavesa.
Okay. And how did you come to officially join the business? Because I think from quite a young age you've been involved.
At the end, you it's a family property. So since I was a baby, my summer times, my holidays were always in the village in Villabuena, even although we were living in Madrid, because my father, when my great grandparents were managing the winery, my father was working in a company in Madrid.
Mhm.
So I grew up in Madrid, but going always every time, all the holidays to Rioja, to the village, to Villabuena. So at the end, you absorb, you assimilate that. And then, well, also when I finished my studies in university, not only I was living in London for 1 year, but also I was working in Madrid as a lawyer. But in some moments, I decided,
wow, I didn't realize that.
I decided that I also wanted to go to the family property because I like it, the wine. I like it, the wine business. I like it, this opportunity. And well, I'm working in the family company for 20 years now.
Fantastic. Well, lucky us. And you're not the only one, because there's a few.
My brother also has been always the winemaker, and my sister is in charge of the administration and finance. So family company, what is good, and also sometimes can be tricky, as in all the families, but it's good because at the end, when there is a family working, there is more people taking care of the business hard and not looking at the time and the schedule.
I always find it amazing. One of the things I really, really love about Private Cellar is that we work with so many amazing family businesses, in part because I am in awe that you can all work so closely with your family and not fall out. It's a really impressive thing.
I think that we are lucky to work in a business in which we mustn't forget it's a business, and we have to be positive in terms of figures.
Yeah.
And we have to be profitable, let's say. But we work in a business that we like.
Yeah. Oh,
and also, I used to work in a big building in Madrid, and it had also positive things. But now I travel, I meet people. I am meeting you today. I am having lunch in London. So our work allow us also to meet people, to enjoy the wine, to enjoy this business, and to be able to do many things that are very pleasant.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those who, I mean, I know Rioja is quite well known, but for those of our customers who aren't quite sure where it is or what Rioja is about, would you mind?
Rioja is in the north of Spain, central north of Spain.
In the middle.
3 hours from Madrid to the north, 1 hour from Bilbao in the coast, and for example, with the French border, 2 hours, and even from Bordeaux vineyards, 4 hours. And in fact, because of that, Rioja has always had important influence from the Bordeaux producers.
Okay.
And that's why also in 1880, when we were born, my family also was contracting a winemaker from Bordeaux, Monsieur Pinot, that was known in our history. So also the influence of Bordeaux and France has been important in Rio.
Okay.
And also very important, when there was a problem along Europe of the phylloxera disease on the insects, that at the end in Europe, France, and then Spain, we lost all the vines and we had to replant again. The French producers, the French negociants, came to take wine and produce wine in Rioja in the second half of the 19th century. And at that age, also the owners, like my family, my great grandfather, probably they were making wines, but in a very old style and maybe not in a commercial way.
Okay.
And thanks to that influence and synergies with the French negociants, I think that in my region we began to make the wines following those methods. Age the wines in barrels. We mustn't forget that in that age also the Spanish, Spain as a country had colonies in America. So probably the producers were thinking how to send wine to the colonies and to America that could stand the trip and that could stay
stable.
And I think in that we learned a little bit from the Bordeaux producers how to age the wines in barrel, etc.
Okay.
So in that beginning of my region, Rioja, also we have a little piece of that in our history.
And where did the American oak come in?
Well, I in this I don't know really. I at the end I don't know if 150 years ago we were just having French oak or European oak. Maybe because at the end the commerce of international commerce was not so easy. So we were using old barrels because at the end we were buying barrels, but we were keeping them very long time.
Yeah.
And in the last decades, when we updated how to make use of the oak, or we began to use more young or new oak, I think that because of a question of cost, we began to play with American oak together with French.
Okay.
And well, at the end, French oak is good, American oak is good, but American is half the price.
Okay.
But in this, I will have also to study the question. Sorry.
No,
to be
good.
more specific.
It's good. It was a random question without any warning, so you're forgiven. But so Rioja has some, for those who don't know Rioja or Spain so well, some unusual grape varieties as well. So what is...
I always think, but I believe in what I say, it's not just a commercial argument. Rioja has 4 main varieties for red, Tempranillo, Grenache, Graciano, and Mazuelo. Grenache is mainly in the southern area, so we don't have that. Great. We have mainly Tempranillo and a little bit of Graciano and Mazuelo. Mazuelo is the French Carignan.
Okay, and Tempranillo is really, that's the really important.
In my opinion, I think it's good to be yourself with your own personality. That's why I also love the whites from Rioja with our grapes, Viura and Malvasia. And we also have a little bit of white Grenache, but that's very small variety. Okay. So mainly for reds is Tempranillo, mainly for whites is Viura. And the Viura is not so well known, but I think Tempranillo is really well known because, in my opinion, it's one of the top 7 varieties for red wines in the world.
Yes, yeah, I would agree with you.
And in fact, well, not only in Spain is the main grape for red wines, in Rioja, Ribera del Duero, in Toro, and in La Mancha. But also, for example, in the last tastings I've been in Belgium and in Ireland and in London, I have tasted Tempranillo wines from California and from South Africa. Why? Because I think that in these regions, together to the French varieties, they are also making proofs and checking how develops the Tempranillo as well as the Sangiovese or the main grapes in the world.
Yeah, well, that's great to hear. I love Tempranillo. I think it's such a wonderful.
I think Tempranillo
expression,
at least in Rioja, but I would say in Spain, but in Rioja because we are in the northern area. And we are lower in altitude than Ribera del Duero or Toro. They are a bit higher because of the Spanish plateau. In Rioja, the Tempranillo is given very balanced wines, not too powerful, not too weak.
Yeah.
And that makes wines which are very accessible for everybody. Good acidity, good balance, but easy drinking. And we mustn't forget that the old people in my region, and my father in particular, always say that the wine is to drink.
Yeah.
To drink easily.
Absolutely.
And a good one is that when you finish a bottle. And Tempranillo grape is a good grape for that.
So for those who aren't so familiar, Rioja, although it's a region which is steeped in history, there has been some quite big changes recently. In 2017, there was a change to the classification system, and this has brought about not necessarily a huge change in terms of the actual labeling, but it has brought about some change in mentality, and that's a shift from producers focusing only on classifying wines by aging, and now moving to really embracing kind of microclimates, micro terroirs, and focusing on villages and municipalities as well. Is this something that you've seen?
I think this is very interesting and very important, and is giving some balance to the tradition of Rioja, because in Rioja, for whatever reason, in the last 40, 50 years, we were making wines that whose quality was mainly focused in the periods of aging in barrel and in bottle.
Okay.
Because everybody understood that the best grapes were taken to wine that were going to age longer, because they had more tannins, more acidity, and more potential to age. Mm-hmm. And it is true. But then years after years, decades after decades, at the end, Rioja was a region in which the focus was anoaked young wines, so like a kind of Beaujolais, so Carbone maceration, young wines, then Crianza, Reserva, Gran Reserva. So people was, at the end, after years, speaking about wines just according to the period of time in the barrel and in the bottle, which is reasonable, but it's not exactly true, because at the end, we mustn't forget that the main argument for the wines are the grapes and the vineyards. So we were losing this, and because of demand of the producers and probably also the market. In Rioja Consejo Regulador, the control board,
the body.
More or less in the last 10, 15 years, there were a lot of discussions and conversations to update that. And then I think it was the first year that was available in the market. It was allowed to make wines that not only speak about the periods of aging of Crianza, Reserva, and Gran Reserva, but also in which we can differentiate the villages and the sub areas. We have 3 areas in Rioja: Rioja Alta in the northwest, Rioja La Pesa, which is a small place where we are in the north, and then Rioja Baja or Rioja Oriental in the southeast. Big regions.
All with quite unique kind of characters.
Big regions. Well, probably, but I think it's positive. I personally like the classification in Bordeaux, in which we all know where Bordeaux is, but then we all know how many different appellations they have. Yeah. So I think this is positive that we try to do something in our own way in Rioja. And then that the market can decide what to drink. I'm not saying what is better or not, but I think that in Rioja, which is not a big region, but it has 60,000 hectares of it. So it's not bad, not small. So I think it's good also to show the market some differentiations that show that this wine is not the same than the other according to the grapes. But in Rioja, as we were differentiating the wines just because of the Crianza, Reserva, and Gran Reserva process and periods of aging, we were not giving importance to that. And now, together to the tradition and heritage that I think is good, not to forget, Crianza, Reserva, and Gran Reserva, we are also showing and putting the focus in the vineyards, in the villages, and in the areas.
So will you start to put the villages on the, does it go on the front label?
We are doing that. We are doing that. Not because we think it's better or not, it's just because I think it's positive to show that the market knows that the grapes are in the area where we are. Yeah. In our case, and again, because we own all our vineyards in our village of Villabuena. Some other producers own or buy grapes in many other regions, so maybe they cannot show that. But in our case, the origin of our wines are clearly in our vineyards and in our village. Which is
really special.
Which I think is positive.
Yeah.
You can like or not. But I think,
it's only a good thing.
That's the beginning of wines.
Yeah.
While for years in Rioja, we had forgotten this a little bit, and we were just paying attention. It reminds me a little bit to the sherry, just paying attention to the periods of aging in the barrel and in the bottle, which is part of our heritage, and I like it. But I think it's important not to forget that the main thing is the terroir and the grapes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, talking of the grapes, shall we try? I've got a bottle here today for us to try, which selfishly is one of my all-time favorites, and I wanted to taste this with Pablo. It's the Crianza. which I think is
I
just
personally like to say, not only because it's a wine that I think I like to say there is a not very professional to say this, but I like the expression of democratic wine because it's a wine that can be drunk for everybody.
yes.
And it's a wine that shows the character of Tempranillo and the character of Rioja,
Mm,
but also in an easygoing way. And maybe Letty, that in Rioja we have a culture, and in Spain, of drinking wines by the glass with tapas. So this is the
yeah.
wine for that
Oh, it's perfect.
because it has a good balance in terms of acidity, fruit, a little touch of oak, and some tannins, but not too much of anything.
No.
So that makes a good balance, that it goes very well with the food and
Yeah, absolutely. I just think this wine's it works
So-
so. What food would you have with this?
with
In an
this.
ideal, if you were cooking at home.
Any tapa. But for example, this is a wine that can be shared very well with spaghetti, with pasta, with a pizza, with a burger, with meat, with cheese.
The tannins are very soft
Well,
as well.
if somebody's waiting, looking for more structure, we have higher wines. But I think this wine has the right structure and enough to share with any plate.
I agree.
Especially when during the week you are willing to taste the wine that is not too powerful. You want a wine to drink easily, a couple of glasses.
Well, cheers. Thank you so much for joining us, Pablo. And yeah, all the best and happy drinking. You must try this. It's absolutely lovely. Cheers.